Good afternoon, everyone. Sundar, Demis, James, sitting with the three of you, it feels like it's AI nirvana. It's the three gods of AI are here. It's fantastic. And, you've come to India at a time when the AI fever has just taken over the entire country. And as you go into the India AI Summit, what is the one expectation that you have? I'll start with the lightning round first. So, Sundar, I'll start with you.
Yeah, maybe I'll say, look, it's a transformational moment. I'm a bit nostalgic, reflecting on maybe a decade ago, coming to India and seeing the digital India transition and the similar excitement there. And it's been phenomenal to actually see a decade of progress. So in some ways, this feels like the beginning of a decade-long shift with AI, so transformational.
Well, I've just come from Bangalore, actually, and giving a talk at the IISc, and I was really impressed with the grad students there, the energy. We had a big lecture, I think 700 students, and the amount of enthusiasm and energy for AI and excitement about the opportunities that we're bringing was really interesting to see. So I think I can feel that with all around the summit, really, and it's exciting to see that.
You're good at thinking exponential, right? Now think 700 exponential. You're going to see like 50,000 people crazy about AI in one place. So that's what you're going to see. James?
I think it's an extraordinary moment for India and for the Global South to showcase a couple of things. First, that it's actually quite possible to drive adoption and lead. And also it's quite possible to build and innovate in AI. I think all too often we think of these things as not happening in the Global South. I think it's an incredible moment to showcase that.
Yeah, fantastic. Sundar, I'm going to start with you, since my job is about trying to figure out the future. So I'm going to ask you to futurecast a little bit about India. When you think, let's think 5 years from now, right? What will AI success look like for India? Are we going to be the largest user base? Are we going to be builders? Are we going to be rule shapers? And if I may add to that, what is the one thing we have to do now to achieve that, whatever the goal is that we set for ourselves, that you think we should set for ourselves?
Look, I travel to many countries around the world, and I do think India is unique, uniquely positioned in this moment. I think it has a chance to play a big role in all three. I think of Google as a full stack company, and I think India, obviously is going to be a full stack player in AI. I think what's important to be in a position to do that, and I think that's what this AI Summit is about, you have to make sure you're investing in all the foundational things you need, in the research, in knowledge in the institutions you have here, the government playing a role in diffusing AI across the country and the economy and making sure it's reaching people. That means you're adopting it in all the sectors and in a way that the progress is touching the average person on a day-to-day basis, be it a farmer, be it a student, be it a doctor in the healthcare sectors, etc. And I think the foundation is being laid, and I can see it. You've seen the announcements this week in terms of infrastructure investments alone. So I think that puts India in a good position to get there. But I would say the progress is about diffusing the technology. And I think India can play a role in all three categories.
So transforming the lives of the last woman in the food chain. That's what success should look like, right?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, wonderful. Demis, I'll come to you next. A big fan of the work you do. And, one of the fascinating things about AlphaFold, it's not just what it does, but how many researchers, how many scientists it has enabled to actually go out there and, discover things that we couldn't even think of discovering a few years earlier, right? For me, that's what's really fascinating. So when you think about, and there's so many problems you can solve, but when you think about India, if we have to make one or two strategic bets, right? what should those be, where we really go in with deep investments, commitment, and say that this is a place where we want to be a global leader? Healthcare, education. What would be the two things you would prioritize?
Well, first of all, I mean, as we're very proud of the impact that programs like AlphaFold have done, and over 3 million researchers around the world make use of it now, actually over 200,000 in India, and almost every biologist researcher in the world. And I think it's just the beginning of the impact that AI is going to have on the sciences and medicine, and I feel like India can play a very leading role in that adoption of AI to the sciences. Maybe what I would say for India, but also many countries, I also advise UK on this, is to double down on the things you're already strong at and are important to the country. Perhaps it's agriculture, for example, and then be the leaders in applying AI to that space that you're already world leading in. So I think agriculture is something I've been discussing with some of the ministers today. For example, making crops resilient to climate change, maybe using the use of things like AlphaFold to help with that. And then perhaps the other place would be maybe like Bollywood and the creative industries, making use of the latest AI tools. Actually, James has just been, maybe can speak to that too.
And how would DeepMind partner with the government of India on these kind of moonshot projects?
Well, we're partnering in all sorts of ways, all the things that Sundar just announced, and we're ready and able to partner in much deeper ways if the government wants, whether it's with Gemini, our main foundation models, our scientific tools like AlphaFold, or our open source work like Gemma. So I think there's a range of things that we can help the government of India with.
James, I'm going to ask you about the elephant in the room that everyone wants to know, which is jobs, right? Now, I was listening to some of the things you were saying at Davos, and it was very interesting. You were talking about how with every technology shift, there are jobs that change, that go away, and then there are jobs that get created. But they don't happen at the same time. There's a lag. So two questions. One, how do governments deal with this lag, right? Especially a young demography like India. And two, what do we have to do to ensure that we come out of this as a job creator?
No, I think it's probably one of the most important questions that I think countries, governments, and society is going to need to think through. And I think it's important to keep in mind that when you're thinking about the question of AI and jobs, it's actually worth thinking about specific tasks as opposed to whole jobs, because most jobs are made up of a constituency of different tasks. And when you look at that, you suddenly realize that, as you said, you may have some occupations that will decline, many that will grow, and many more that will actually change. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. So what happens is, when you look at these questions sector by sector or occupation by occupation, you see a lot of transitions going on. But to the question of what should governments do to make sure that, in fact, there are growing jobs and enabling the change that happens, I think one is to focus on skilling. One of the things that happens in all these transitions, whether it's people who are transitioning out of jobs that are declining or jobs that are growing or jobs that are changing, is that the skills required change. So investing in skills and literacy and so forth, I think is foundationally important. The other thing that's important is also the continued kind of investments that countries and governments like India are doing in infrastructure and innovation, because a lot of the jobs that will grow will come out of those investments in infrastructure as well as investments in innovation. When you grow businesses, you grow companies, and you have innovation in the economy, that's what leads to job growth. So I think those investments in innovation, both in the infrastructure and the innovation, but also in the skills, is what governments need to focus on.
I think what you said is so important, that you cannot have sort of a macro view of jobs. You need to start understanding which tasks are going to get impacted. You need to start planning for that. You need to start planning for which sector. So we really have some work to do to figure out where will we get hurt the most, what are the opportunities, and then plan for it. And I think that's an excellent advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sundar, if I may come back to you, the other elephant in the room, are we going to see an AI bubble or are we not? right? Now, a lot of CEOs, when you look at it, talk to enterprise CEOs, they are worried about really scaling up investments because they're worried about, are they going to be able to justify the cost? What will the board say, et cetera, et cetera. Help us understand, based on your experience, based on Alphabet's experience, how should CEOs deal with this question and deal with this problem today?
You know, we live in a truly global world. I thought if I left the US, I could avoid this question. But no, but look, it shows, look, I think it's an extraordinary moment. I think we are investing to meet that moment, right? I think in some other context, Demis has spoken about this as the industrial revolution, but 10 times faster and 10 times larger. And if you go back and look at the railroad investments or the national highway system in the US, I mean, these are such leveraged investments, and you drive so much growth and value on top of that. I view this as a transformational moment like that. As Google, I think we are fortunate that we've been focused on this technology for over a decade, and be it search, be it YouTube, be it cloud, be it emerging businesses like Waymo or Isomorphic Labs, I think they're all getting better and growing based on this one technology underneath. So we can generate a return there. Just as an example, cloud alone in the last year, the backlog has doubled year on year to $240 billion. So that shows the potential for return on the other side. And so we are investing to meet that demand, and that's what makes this an exciting moment. So I think the investment makes sense given the progress in the technology we are seeing and the opportunities we see on top of it.
Demis, I have to ask you the third elephant in the room, which is, what on earth is AGI? Because, we keep hearing about it, and the more we hear about it, the more we feel like we're trying to build something that is going to control all of us. And then the question is, why are we building it? So what is it? Is it really the end goal to control? Is the end goal to augment prosperity? And help us understand your take on it. And also, how should India be thinking about AGI? Or if we need to prepare, what should we be doing?
Well, the first thing I'll say is the reason I've worked my whole career on AI is because I think it could be the ultimate tool for accelerating scientific discovery and areas like medicine. So things like AlphaFold, I hope, will be the first of many advances showcasing that. And then we can apply that to help us tackle many of the challenges facing society today, from disease to climate to inequality. So I think AI on the upside, the opportunity has, and AGI in the limit has that potential. In terms of, defining what AGI is, I've always defined it, have a high bar for AGI, which is a system that exhibits all the cognitive capabilities that humans have. Now, the reason that's important is the human reference point is because the brain is the only evidence we have, the only existence proof we have that general intelligence is possible. So it's kind of, we won't really know we have a fully general system unless it's able to do a lot of the things that we sometimes take for granted. Things like creativity and long-term planning and better use of memory. And so today's systems, they're impressive, but they're not there yet, in my opinion. And I think we've still got a way to go, at least another 5-10 years to go. But certainly in the next phase, the next decade or 2 decades, I see it as the sort of ultimate enhancement tool for us and human scientists, human experts, but also the youth of today. And this is what was exciting, seeing that in India here in this visit, is we'll have access to these incredible tools. So whatever that means, building businesses, creating art, I think they'll be sort of almost superpowered to do that with these access to these tools that you can access from anywhere, the most cutting edge tools in the world from anywhere, including from India.